Hello, everybody out there in Facebook land. Great to be with you today. Hope you've had a tremendous week full of blessings, full of opportunities, full of gratitude. I just want to say thank you to each one of you being a part of the network. And I am super, super grateful. I have so much to be grateful for. For those of you that have been praying for me, I so appreciate it. I remember I used to know a few people with plantar fasciitis when I was younger. I was like, what? I couldn't even say it. I still don't know, always say it right. And then I experienced it for the first time a few years ago. And I was like, this is no joke. This is what they were talking about. And I've had it off and on the last several years, maybe hits me once or twice a year. Well, I have never had it hit me like it hit me like not even 2 weeks ago. And last week for 4 days, I was on crutches. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I'm so grateful that I'm 85% back to the gym today. Yes, I know all of you are like, don't overdo it. I did not overdo it today. I took it easy, but it feels so good to get back to some semblance of normal. Anyway, I'm getting off the beaten path. I'm excited to be with you guys today. I do before I introduce you to our awesome guest, and she is awesome. Um, I want to tell you because it's important that I tell you that you are important, that you are valued, that if you're watching today, that you are amazing and God's got an incredible plan for your life. And wherever you're at on the journey, your story's not over yet. And you are worthy. I wish I would have had somebody tell me those things growing up. I wish I would have had somebody telling me those things, to be honest with you, a year ago. Not to feed my ego, but to go the other way from the other things that I've been told that were the opposite. So I love being able to tell you you're worthy. So, with that being said, I want to introduce you to Jenn. Jenn Gray is a keynote speaker, a podcast host, an advocate for authenticity as life's greatest advantage, a graduate of Liberty University with a degree in speech communications. She has spent her career empowering women to discover the freedom that comes from living genuinely. After trailblazing an organization that impacted hundreds of teen girls each month, Jenn now speaks to sororities and leadership organizations, helping high achieving women reconnect with who they are beyond expectations, roles, and titles. Through her keynote, Take the Mic, the leadership framework for building a life you're proud of, Jenn challenges audiences to stop performing and start leading from identity. She equips them to overcome imposter syndrome, build real confidence, and use their voice with clarity, courage, and conviction. Jenn also works with women in seasons of reinvention through her coaching, helping them align their life, leadership, and personal brand with who they truly are so they can build a life they are proud of. I love it. Jenn, welcome to the You Are Worthy Network.
Hey, Steve, thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here.
Oh, we're so glad to have you. I love the work you're doing. You and I were talking just a little bit offline about, um, you know, uh, 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 well, I guess for lack of a better word, certification maybe.
Yeah.
But I think it's amazing what the Lord is doing with you, and of course we'll dig into that here. But like I always say, one of the incredible benefits of being the founder of this group is how God's blessed it and how it's grown. And I don't take that for granted, and I love it that people are eventually going to watch this. There'll be people watching outside the states, but I would like you to tell folks what part of the world are you coming from today?
Yeah, so I'm over here in Atlanta, Georgia, so not too far from you.
Not too far in the region.
Right in the southeastern region. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yep. You and I've had that conversation about where you're at, little small town outside of Atlanta, and I know
Mhm.
exactly where it's at. It's about 6 hours away
Yep.
in hot Atlanta. But are you a Georgia native?
I am. I was born here. I tried to get away, but I kept coming back. But yeah, no, I'm born and raised. And yeah, I lived in Tennessee just for a little smidge of my life, right outside of Chattanooga. But for the most part, I am a Georgia girl through and through.
I don't think I knew the Chattanooga piece. I love Chattanooga, by the way.
So fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun town and it's not too big. But so who do you currently do life with? Tell us about your family.
Yeah, so I am a single mom of four amazing kiddos. So I have a 16-year-old daughter, a 13-year-old son, 12-year-old daughter, and 10-year-old son. So they are my world. They're so fun and so busy. I am in the thick of all the things where it's spring sports season. So I've got a lacrosse player, a baseball player, and a softball player. So that is my world. What are my hobbies? My four children's hobbies. And so that's I'm at a baseball field or a lacrosse field pretty much every day of the week. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's so fun. So fun.
Get this mother some gift cards for pizza and some gift cards for gas.
I mean, right? Oh my goodness. It's so fun.
Oh yeah, never yes. You said so from 16 to 10. Yeah, never a dull
Yeah.
moment.
No, nope, not one. Nope, so fun.
So, what do you guys like to do for fun locally, like like everyday life fun?
Mhm.
And then when you want to do something extra fun and leave the area, where do you like to go?
Okay, great questions. So, I mean, all jokes aside, we genuinely are like my kids are actually friends with each other, which is such a gift, and it's something that I prayed for that they wouldn't hate each other. Now, that doesn't mean they're perfect and they don't fight. Let's just be super, super transparent, real. But they're great friends, and so we do a lot of we're in the car going places and supporting each other and everybody's games and doing all the things and we love walking. I live really close to a lot of restaurants and so it's very normal if it's a pretty Saturday we are walking to grab coffee and a bagel or we're gonna walk to lunch, head to Chick-fil-A. So just trying to get outside and enjoying each other. If we're going somewhere like super fun, it better be a beach because I don't care. Well, I say I don't care. I'm a huge Gulf Coast girl. Like, just take me down to the Panhandle. So we love the beach. My boys love, skimboarding and all the things. And my daughters and I were like, hey, I would say bring a book, but they're not into reading. They're like, let's just, let's just go hang out and tan on the beach. But yeah, we love outside. We love outdoors. Definitely beach people. So yeah, that's kind of our vibe.
Well, I love that. And you answered one of my questions I had in flow there.
Uh-huh.
We too like the Gulf side.
Nice.
And so does that mean Destin? We're Panama City folks.
Okay.
Uh,
So
love the white beaches, love the clear water. Well, fairly clear. But
ish.
tell us where you like to go most.
So growing up, I mean, everybody, we only went to Panama City. I mean, that's just, staple. So I do love Destin. I really am not I'm not picky. I just definitely prefer that Gulf side over that you can't beat the beaches. I mean, once you've
Mm-mm.
experienced that white sand, I don't know how you go to the other coast. But
Mm-mm. Yeah, no, I love it too.
Mhm.
Um, let's take a trip down memory lane for a second.
All right.
Let's go back in time
Okay.
to senior year of high school.
All right.
2 weeks left before graduation. Cap and gown in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you had a class ring,
Mm-hmm.
marking the days off on the calendar. Maybe your classmate said, Jen, you're in charge of the beach ball that we're going to bounce around during the ceremony. I don't know. That's what we're trying to establish. Are you that young lady that can't wait to bust down the doors, senioritis to the max? You already have a job. Maybe you're going to continue that job in the summer before college or whatever your plans are. Just the world is yours. Can't stop Jen. Or is it more, I'm not sure. I'm a little scared. I guess I better get a job. Um, I don't know what I'm going to do in the fall. I'm going to miss this place. I'm going to miss the structure and the teachers and the admin and the students. Or are you somewhere in between? Where are you at?
Okay, that's a really fun question. So I'm going to rewind you just a hair to junior year. I ran for class president for my senior year because I wanted to speak at graduation. And so I was class president. So I was all things school spirit, just could not wait to represent my school and my class and speak. So I was probably practicing my speech 1,004 times and getting ready for all of the things. I was a volleyball player, so I was still finishing up travel ball, and I knew I was going to Liberty. It's so funny. I didn't visit any other colleges. Liberty, they actually visited my church when I was in middle school, and like in eighth grade, I'm like, I'm going to Liberty. And I just was a little bit stubborn, comes to me naturally. And I'm like, that's where I'm going to go. So I visited that April. And then I thankfully I loved it. And I went there. I thought I was going to be a government major, hence the decisiveness. Like I'm going to impact, I'm going to change the world. And that's the only thing that changed was that. But yeah, I went to Liberty as a government major, wanted to be a U.S. senator, but I was ready. I was ready to bust out, and that was far away for me. That was 8 hours away from Atlanta, and so I was excited to make these wings fly and to flee the nest. I was the oldest of three girls, and so I was ready to just to jump out there. So I was excited. I loved high school, but also I was super pumped for college. So that was a little.
Okay, so a couple follow-ups in that. So did you win class president?
I did, yes.
Okay. And so that desire to speak was strong early
Uh,
on.
it was.
Now was that, I think I know the answer, but I got to throw it out the option. So was that to tell publicly all the things that needed to be righted with the school, or was it more motivational intended, a spurring on of your classmates?
Uh, it was definitely the second. Wanted to, at a very young age, I guess probably middle school, I started to see the hard parts of my story be used for good. And I'm really thankful for that, even though there was a lot of things in that moment I didn't know to be thankful for, right? We have things that we can't control, and there's parts of our story that we're embarrassed that are ours. But I was already watching God use those and giving me a message inside of that. And so I was super excited to like give me the microphone. The fear of public speaking, I have a lot of fears, like don't give me snakes. But fear of public speaking was not something that ever I was always super confident in front of a crowd. And then I later learned that was a gift and not normal. And so, yeah.
It definitely is a gift. Even though I speak every Sunday,
Mhm.
um, getting into it took some getting used to. There was
Yeah.
definitely some fear there. And for me, I don't know how you feel about this. I'd be interested in this. Like, obviously, I started doing interviews big
Mhm.
time 8 months ago, but I'm telling you, just 45 days before that, I was terrified just to do an organic video of
Mm.
myself or talking to somebody for 5 minutes. So
That
how were you about the camera part of it?
Okay, so the camera is fine, but I will tell you, when I first started my podcast, it was only solo episodes. So it was just me and it was fine. I was terrified of interviewing Steve. I was so nervous. I'm like, what if I can't come up with a question? Like I can go on a rabbit trail or I can wrap my own thoughts back together, but I'm like, but controlling this conversation and someone else being involved, I felt like I needed to go take a deep dive into Oprah and learn how to interview because it took me forever. It took me a year doing my podcast before I had my first interview because I was terrified. And it
Yep.
ended up being way more fun. I'm like, wait, hold on, I can hold a conversation. I think that I'm going to be fine. But I totally get that. That was a new level of fear, was stepping into that whole interview side of things. So it's
It
not
is, it's
easy.
amazing how God grows us as we step into those fears.
100%. Yeah, for
So,
sure.
I want to follow up with liberty for just a second because, well, I shouldn't say everyone has this perception. This is my perception, and probably a lot of people share it. Is Liberty is widely known for its online courses, and rightfully so. But it does have a campus. So you did go to the brick and mortar and graduate,
That
correct?
is so funny that you said that, because Liberty Online, I'm going to age myself, but Liberty Online kind of became a thing like halfway into my college career. And that became something I heard all the time. And then after, like 10 years after, they're like, oh, I went to Liberty too. Or like, I graduated from Liberty. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I was in Lynchburg. And they're like, oh, no, 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 online. I'm like, okay, hold on. No, I actually went to Liberty University. So it's funny that you say that. It's a big difference. And so yes, there's a differentiator. I did spend 4 years in Lynchburg, Virginia, and went to the actual school before Liberty Online had like 80,000 students, or I don't know how many there are
Yeah,
now, but yeah, that's so funny.
crazy. So where did the shift happen? Because you got into ministry
Uh-huh.
somewhere along the lines. That's different than government.
Yes, I
And,
lasted
and,
1 semester in government.
oh wow, tell us the shift.
So I went in again, in my perspective, the way I could impact people was to go and save Capitol Hill, right? So in me, I'm like, I'm gonna go, and so the natural, course of action is to go and be a government major. And I signed up for my first government class, and I went in there and I looked around and I'm like, which one of these is not like the other? Like, these are not my people. We are going to have to find a different way to impact people, a different way to use my voice. And in this same token, I was on a ministry team that traveled around to youth groups all over the East Coast. And we had like a worship team and a skits team back when that was just what ministry looked like, right? Like that's what we did. That's what we traveled around and did all that. And I was a part of like the skits, the drama girl. Like I'm not a singer, I can play instruments, but again, I can talk and have a little bit of acting. And so I did that. And I actually was asked about a year in to share my testimony in a Sunday morning service. And even culturally, that was a big deal, because, and I was okay with it, right? Like I wasn't here to like bust through being a woman pastor. That was never my heart or my intention or anything like that. But I saw my story impact others, and I'm like, okay. And then I started to see the shift in culture where the youth group leadership is predominantly male, which was fine until culture shifts. And I just saw the need for a female voice. I saw the need. You couldn't have these, male youth pastors with closed doors with high school girls dealing with their actual issues. Like that was not okay anymore. And so I saw that need, and that became my focus. So I shifted my major to speech communications. I still knew I wanted to talk to people, and with a minor in youth ministry. And I set out to trailblaze the girls ministry trail. And I had seen a couple of, early comers that had in very, very large churches, had kind of started doing that. But it definitely wasn't widespread. And so I graduated and came back to my home church, and was ready to do just that. I wanted to be what I needed as a high school girl. And I wanted them, I mean, very much aligned with You Are Worthy. I wanted them to know that they were created on purpose and for a purpose, and that their beauty was way, way, way deeper than skin deep, and that God sees them as their precious masterpiece, and to know that you are worthy of the calling that He has on your life. And so yeah, I did that. I graduated in 2005, and, did full-time ministry. Minus my stay-at-home mom stint for about 15 years.
15 years. Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to do a little bit of math. So was there something in between girls ministry and what you're doing now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to
And
see if that was a good yes or an exhausting yes.
yeah, no, that's where it all changed, for for the first part of my life, everything seemed, like I knew what I wanted and I would go out and get it. And, I'm that firstborn. And, if I want it and I see it, I'm going to work hard for it and I'm just going to go for it. And then for the first time in my life, um, I didn't get to choose. And so I went through a divorce in 2019 and I navigated that on a staff of a mega church and in my dream position, doing my dream job. And I knew I was losing my marriage. I genuinely had no idea that I was going to then cost me my position, my community, and everything. And it did. And I was told by a pastor that if I went through with a divorce, that I would never influence anybody again. And I wish I didn't believe it. But I spent the next few years, so that was 2019. So I spent the next few years living life out of a lot of pain and making a lot of decisions that are completely out of character of who I am. And then it wasn't until 2023, which was like the next wake up call in my life of what in the world, who have we become? What are we doing? And we have a life to live and four amazing kids to live a legacy for, and this is not going to be it. And so, yes, so it was an abrupt change, very much so. I was literally at the peak of my career, and everything shifted.
So I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I do want to ask you, did you feel like the church, the leadership of the church, were they a resource to help the marriage before it got to that point?
I mean, let's yes, and it was so when I actually got into counseling, I had a crazy childhood, right? I think, like I said kind of earlier, that we all have things in our life we can't control. I had an alcoholic father. I dealt with a crazy hair disease like since middle school. There was just a lot of pieces of my world that I had never sought any type of counseling over. And at this point, I've now been a part of building a ministry that reaches hundreds of girls. And so there's a lot of one-on-one mentorship and discipleship happening. And as I was pouring out and listening, I'm like, you know what? Like, I've never just like gone and had any type of guidance and wisdom in my own life. And I've been through a lot, and so I sought that counsel. And unfortunately, it was kind of the beginning of the unravel. And yeah, so essentially the church was there if the marriage was going to stay intact. If the marriage was going to dissolve, then that's where then I was. What it felt like was that I went from being an asset to a liability. And what I later understood and essentially brought the healing in my own heart was to have empathy, even on that leadership, to know that they made a decision based on tens of thousands of people. And even though I felt like I was thrown aside in that, that they felt like based on the beliefs of the church and the decisions that they stood for, that I no longer was fit for that level of leadership in the church. And when I could understand that, that doesn't mean I have to agree with it, right? I go to a different church now. It doesn't mean I have to agree with it. But when I came to the healing and understanding that maybe there's a different story other than you're trying to kick Jen down and when she's hurting, because that's what I believed for about 3 years. That how could you do this to me? How could you kick me when I was in my most vulnerable season of my life? And when I could shift it to maybe walking a couple of steps in their own shoes and navigating a very, very hard situation that affected a lot of people, that became a new level of healing for me.
I love the reframe, and I'm sorry you had to endure that because regardless of others' perspectives,
Mm.
that had to have been an excruciating emotional time to walk through. So I'm sorry.
Thank
But I also know God used it for good.
you.
And I also know that it helped eventually propel to where you're at now and how you're helping now.
Yeah.
But it's tough to walk through those wilderness seasons for
For
sure.
sure.
And So we fast forward. You mentioned the year 23.
Mhm.
What significant happened in 23?
So, in part of my just, I mean, again, hurt people. There is never a more truer statement. And I've received that and I've reciprocated that. And in part of my hurt season, which I would say is like 2019 to 2023, I mean, Steve, I went from trusting anybody and everybody to I didn't trust anybody.
Mm.
And I started building brick walls between me and people. I cut people out, I cut people off. I got into another relationship that ultimately led me to live in Texas for a short stint of time. I drove back and forth and existed in two places for about a year and a half, but fighting for my kids to be able to come to Texas. But until then, I just made the drive and I was still room mom and all of those things. And honestly, like that season, even as I speak of it, it almost just feels like an out of body experience because it feels so just, how did I do that? And why did I do that? And what on earth? And it seems again, just there's so many things that are just completely out of character. So in 2023, there was a situation that it was like clear as day was I cannot do this anymore. Like I have built a very successful business in insurance with the man that I was in a relationship with. So we had a business together, but it was fully in his name, living this back and forth life. And I'm like, I can't anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do, but what I know is that I'm not doing that. What I know is that I'm going to be okay. And all I want is my kids. I want stability. I want all that to be done. And I mean, I essentially was homeless for the first bit, trying to figure out where I was going to resettle. I had cut off all communication with family, with the community. This is home for me where, I mean, I graduated high school here. I worked at this church. Everything that I knew, I was like fish out of water coming back here. And all I kept
Mm.
saying was one foot in front of the other. And I don't know what tomorrow looks like, but I know it's going to have peace and I know it's going to have wholeness and healing. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to rebuild a life that I'm actually proud to live. Because when I looked at myself in the mirror in that moment, I mean, Steve, I genuinely did not recognize the eyes looking back at me. And the gift to me and the gift to my kids was I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know it doesn't look like this. And I know it doesn't look like this chaos and just so many things that were, again, it was just trying to fulfill a void that was created. And it was filled with all the wrong things. And I had to unwind that, right? To get that out. I had to, but I mean, when I say it's like, I mean, it's like what I would imagine quitting smoking, like just cold turkey, just like done. Like, I mean, here I am. I mean, I
Mm.
had a
Well,
4 bedroom home in Texas, and I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how to make enough money to get a plane ticket out there, to rent a truck and bring everything back here. It took me 30 days to do that. And I had some amazing neighbors that I had built relationship with, once after my divorce, and they're like the sweetest old couple, and they're like, you can stay here as long as you need to. And I did. And I just told my kids, hey, I told you I was fighting for what was best, but when I knew it wasn't best, this is where I'm at. This is what we're doing, and we're gonna figure it out. And mommy loves you, and we're gonna navigate this. And they are the most gracious four people on the planet. And that's probably the biggest gift in all of this. Is I look back and I'm like, I don't know why my four kids don't hate me. Like why, but God spared them from the pain of, they have the best memories of Texas. They love the adventures. They got to go on airplanes all the time. And, like, anyways, there's so much even in all of that, like just to watch, what God spared them from the pain of all of it. And yeah, we're, we rebuilt together and we are rebuilding. We're not there yet, but we are not where we were in 2023. That's for sure. It feels like a lifetime ago. And then, as you mentioned, it also feels like yesterday. So,
yeah, I'm sure there's been a lot of rebuilding and a lot of trust has been restored, and I'm
yeah.
sure y'all are having fun. You're probably in your sweet spot right now, even though it's busy, even
Yes.
though it's challenging.
Yeah.
It's purposeful
100%.
right now.
Mhm.
So, all right. So we're staying at this gracious couple's house. We're scraping to make ends meet, I assume.
Mhm.
but there's still a dream in there somewhere. I'm thinking back right now to that speech Jen gave at graduation. You can't put out that fire. And I'm assuming that fire, those embers are getting hot
Yeah.
somewhere in this. Would that be correct?
It was. It took a little bit of rewiring and getting rid of what didn't serve my future. And so knowing that those words that pastor spoke over me that I wouldn't have influence anymore because of this decision and things like that. I'm like, okay, no, no, no. Like I'm going to think on what is true. And that became my mantra is think on what is true. And what is true is that God's not done with me. What is true is that there are some hard chapters that I can look back with shame, or I can find the parts of my journey that I learned from that I only would have learned from had I gone through it. And what I absolutely learned was the power of empathy, right? That's like I mentioned with my former church, understanding, like shifting my lens on the way I saw different things. And even in that, like my dad, he was an alcoholic and ended up living the last 10 years of his life homeless. Honestly, just out of
Mm.
pride. And he had actually stopped drinking and had developed like alcohol induced dementia, which just he it was really hard to watch. And in that, in my darkest, deepest pain, what I knew is that I was making decisions based out of that pain, but that gave me a lens to see my dad in a different light. And so my dad actually passed away and in 2022. And right before he did, in the middle of my demise, I sat down with my dad and I said, Dad, I just believe that your anger and your hurt is because of hurt, and it's not actually because you wanted to be mean and cruel. And I gave my dad space to walk me through his childhood, to walk me through his pain.
Mm.
And when I started to see is, okay, our vulnerability can build bridges to each other. If we just have the capacity to be real and be authentic and be genuine and listen and give someone else the space to share their story and give them just even the dignity to share the hard parts and to listen. And when I watched that, like turn my dad's perspective even of his own life, not even knowing he was going to pass away within a year of that, like
Wow.
it was those things that, okay, God, if you took me off my high pedestal that I didn't even really know that I was on, I would have told you that I was, vulnerable and all of this before. But when I had everything taken from me, it gave me a perspective on shining light on someone else's story and to give me the space to listen. Because in that moment of my kicked down and kicked out, I felt so lost in the middle of that. I'm like, wait, wasn't I more than my title? Like, wasn't I more than the big things that I did? And what I couldn't control was somebody else. But what I learned is that what I could control is the opportunity I give someone else and the space that I give someone. And so, yes, those embers started to brew, and I had a mentor in social media space. I was building an online business with insurance and all that craziness. And, because when I get kicked out of church ministry, I didn't know what to do. I got licensed in life and health insurance and trying to help
Sure.
people and all the things. And her name is Jessie Lee Ward. She's incredible. I watched her build a business online out of just kindness and passion. And she was bold and she just did things different. And it was the first taste of me seeing success and seeing that I could fit into the lens of success. Because when I saw her build in such just a real way, I'm like, okay, hold on. Like, I don't want to be like some three-piece suit wearing woman in downtown, Atlanta. Like, just like I didn't see myself as that government major, but I saw the way she built things and I saw the way she lifted people up and watched her making millions a month. And I got into her coaching and all of that. And she was 34, peak of her career, investing in so many people and all that. And Steve, in February of 2023, she got diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And in me, 2023 was my whole like dumpster fire year. And so then the end of 2023, September of 2023, she lost her battle to cancer and she passed away.
Mm.
And in that moment, it was one of those God things of, okay, Jenn, I've given you so much inside of you. I've taught you so much. There's so many lessons and so many things in your journey that I've given you to give other people hope. And I'd kind of dabbled in the idea of starting a podcast, but I kept saying, there's millions of podcasts out there. Like, do you really need one more podcast? And Jenn, you've got 4 kids, you're rebuilding your life, like, let's wait till you're down the road. And she passed away on a Saturday, and I started my podcast on that next Tuesday because what I had that she didn't have was a voice. And I was extremely real and raw on there and said, hey, listen, if you're looking for someone that's going to teach you how to build a massively successful business, I'm going to send you some links to some great podcasts. But if you're looking for a single mom of 4 who is rebuilding her life from the absolute smithereens, burnt to the crisp bottom, then let's go along on this journey and let's rebuild our lives in a way that we're proud of. Our dumpster fires are going to look different, but the hope is that we do get to rebuild and that God's not done with us yet. And what does it look like to align our lives with the core values inside of us and to see that there's hope on the other side. And so I started a podcast the end of 2023.
Oh my gosh, my brain is spinning right now. Just in that flow of dialogue, there was so much gold. I mean, I'm going to try really hard to recall a couple of highlights here. I love that you got that time with your dad.
Mhm.
That's really special. Um, and then if you haven't given the keynote, I don't even know if you know you said it, the power of empathy.
Mhm.
You better grab that one before I grab it because I love that topic. Um, but I also love the influence that your mentor had on you.
Mhm.
And like it tells us how important she was that 72 hours after she passes, you're starting a podcast. It's almost like there's a dedication to her in that.
Mhm.
And there's I'm sure there's you know what? Life is short.
Yeah.
I need to make the most of my dash. I'm not waiting any longer.
100%. Yep, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly. I did. I dedicated the timing to her 100%, and a lot of it was her influence as far as the mindset shifts that I went through to be able to speak on. And yeah, and that's what I want to encourage anyone out there. Like that's really the biggest lesson that I learned is that we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And when you have someone close with you that's 34, like I had people in my life that I loved that had passed away, but you're talking 34. I mean, picture of health until she wasn't. And she spent her whole adult life pouring into others. And what I saw is I had spent my whole adult life pouring into others until I felt like someone took that mic away and didn't allow me. And instead, I'm like, okay, no, 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 I'm not the victim. I I still know that God has things in me that he wants to empower and inspire others with. So I'm going to take back the mic, which is where my keynote title comes from. I'm going to take back that mic and I'm going to use it for good. And we all have that mic, right? It looks different. For some people, it's figurative, right? It's not you're going to start a podcast. It's not that you're going to go and start speaking on stages, but it's taking back the type of relationship that you want to have or the business that you've always dreamed of starting or the side hustle that you've never dabbled in because you are letting imposter syndrome absolutely take that mic. And it's like, no, 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 no. Fear and imposter syndrome don't get to take that mic. Let's just do it. Let's take messy action. It wasn't perfect. Like we were kind of talking about the audio visual, the behind the scenes of even, being on here. And Steve, I literally went online. I'm like, okay, y'all, I'm going live on YouTube for the first time for this podcast. It's at noon on Tuesday. Make sure you're following me. And all jokes aside, I get on there. I go like an hour before. I'm making sure it's all good to go. Well, I've gone live on Facebook a million times. I've never gone live on YouTube. Had no idea you have to ask for permission to go live on YouTube 24 hours before you go live. Well, here I am 1 hour before this podcast launched. And I'm like, oh, this is funny. So then I go back on my Facebook. I'm like, scratch that. We're going live on Facebook for my first podcast. And, I'm like recording the audio into my Spotify for Creator app. And I'm going live on, Facebook because YouTube didn't. And all of that, I just laugh now because that's a picture of what my whole journey has been. Like, just do it. Just go out there,
Yeah.
just make mistakes and you learn from it. And if you stop taking yourself so seriously and stop thinking we have to be so polished and so perfect. Hence my authenticity message, because I did for my whole life think I needed to appear a certain way to impact people. And when I took all that away, I'm like, okay, wait, wait. When I was real, y'all didn't like that. So I think if I'm real, I'm going to connect with my real people and actually have impact because I don't have to worry about what mask I'm wearing and what I'm not wearing. And it took me 36, 40 years probably to learn that. And which is why I'm talking to sororities now. I'm like, if I could learn that back when I was in college, my life would have looked real different. But yeah.
Well, you're younger than I am, so I'm glad you're learning that now because I'm just learning that now too. And I just got challenged yesterday to, to do videos more consistently, lives, not these, but my personal,
Yeah.
for my brand. And like I started thinking, well, gosh, I don't have a lot of places to go for the scenery, and I don't want to be in the car all the time. And in my office, I have weird roof lines, and I'm like, oh my God, I won't say I have totally come out of that mindset yet, but I am breaking through out of it because I'm like, to your point, just do it. Do it
Yeah.
imperfect. And if it means I'm doing it on the way to the gym and I'm in the same hoodie for a few days in a row because that's what I wear on the way to the gym, does anybody really care?
No.
They
Yeah.
just want to connect. They just want to be encouraged. And
Yeah.
so I love that. I'll share with you real briefly, and then I want to ask you about your speaking a little bit, um, about taking the mic back. I know someone who was a minister of a pretty good church in your area, matter of fact,
Hmm.
and they had a significant fall from grace in the
Hmm.
public,
Hmm.
and they ended up with major addiction issues, addiction issues. They ended up losing their family,
Hmm.
and they ended up homeless in the Atlanta area. And in the middle of all this nightmare, he offered up a prayer to God one time and said, God, by your grace, you allowed me to minister to all these people. You gave me the gift of speaking. He goes, and this is after he's come through a lot, right? And he's trying to come through the other side. And he's like, I don't want to waste that gift forever.
Hmm.
Please give me my gift of speaking back. You decide where my audience is going to be.
Hmm.
And God said, okay, you sure you're ready for that? And now he is in some of the toughest juvenile facilities in the whole state of Georgia, including inner Atlanta. And he's got a podcast, and he is speaking, and he's traveling, and he's writing books. But those kids, those
Hmm.
inner city kids in Georgia, are his heartbeat.
Hmm.
And that's where he preaches now, is behind the prison walls. But that's his mic, and he
Yeah.
loves it.
Yeah.
So I love the comeback stories, and you're in the middle of one, or maybe on the better side of one now. So tell us what you like to speak from the most from stage.
Yeah. So I wasn't even sure I was ever going to speak publicly again. Honestly, that's why I started the podcast because it felt like a platform that I could start that nobody could take from me because it was mine and it was just my computer. And then I was involved in local networking for my insurance business. And I then somebody asked me a year and a half ago, Jen, what's your 5-year plan? And I'm like, I mean, I would love to be back on stages. And they're like, okay, well, then what are you doing about that? And I was like, I mean, I got a podcast, And they're like, oh, is that getting you on stages? And I'm like, no. So back to this messy action. I went to the very next meeting and I said, hey, I'm Jenn Gray. I'm a keynote speaker and a podcast host. And I got booked 4 times. And I'm like, I got to come up with a keynote, right? Like I don't really have this like speaking thing planned, like I just kind of put it out there. But I had been I'd been wrestling with this message that your authenticity is your superpower. It's your competitive advantage. It's what sets you apart. Like genuinely understanding the intrinsic value you bring to something. And so I started sharing this with sales teams. I started speaking at real estate brokerages and going to financial groups and anybody who was dealing with people, they were my people. I'm like, let's talk about like getting rid of the whole idea that you've got to be somebody specific other than yourself to relate to people. Like, let's talk about the client relationships that you're building, the inner office relationships, and talked about leading with empathy. So, yes, that's a big thing that I talk about is leading with empathy. It changes everything from top of the top CEOs to anybody else. And it was always fascinating to me when I would speak at like these business associations. First of all, I felt like fish out of water, right? Like I'm just this woman who speaks to teenage girls and somehow I'm in front of like adults, like speaking to adults. And I was connecting with these big financial gurus and they were like, this is a different business conversation and we need more of it. And it just kind of started growing. And so the message is still the same, that our authenticity is our competitive advantage. Let's talk about a framework of reframing the way we see our story and understanding how we can use it to connect. So it's my story, just built in a framework, right? It's me understanding that my vulnerability built bridges to people, even my own family, that I would have never built if I didn't use my vulnerability to build those bridges. If I wasn't real enough to have those hard conversations to say, I'm not perfect. I mess up. I like royally messed up. Like, trust me, my kids know there is nothing you can tell me that's going to surprise me. Like, mama's already done it, been through it, all the things. And I wasn't there 10 years ago. I would have never had that understanding of what genuine empathy and vulnerability is. And so, genuinely, the dumpster fires of my world gave me the message that now I speak, whether it's to sales teams or now to sororities. And even that's been like another cool little God thing. That's a recent thing. I spoke my three most recent events, and there were different women in the audience, and they're like, oh my goodness, I wish my sorority could hear this message. And at first I just thought it was cute. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Like, oh, I'm not a sorority girl. Like, I don't know. I went to Liberty University. We didn't have sororities. And then after a couple of times, I'm like, okay, like there was like this like light bulb that went on of, okay, this is like the redemption of my heart and passion for the younger generation that I thought was gone. Like I thought speaking was gone and I've watched that be revived, but I still didn't think that I had space for the younger generation because I wasn't really interested in going back and pursuing a church job. So I didn't know where that would look like. And so now I've been like a kid in a candy store, like I day in and day out connecting with colleges and universities and saying, this is the message your sorority needs. And I want, and this is what it looks like. This is the confidence that I want them to find no matter what role or title they have. And before the world gives them their definition of who they are, I want them to identify it. And I'm excited, like a new, refreshed, excited, even though just been on the speaking journey again. I spoke for 15 years, but I'm like a newbie, and I'm a year and a half in, and now brand new into this. And so that's my message, and those are my audiences. And right now I'm in that building a relationship stage and getting it out there.
If you go back and watch this, even if you don't watch the whole thing, go back and watch the last 5 minutes because you light up like a Christmas tree. I mean, like if you had a stage right now,
Yeah.
this would be the perfect time to flash your QR code.
Nice. Mental note made. Okay, perfect.
No, yeah, you can tell you're passionate about it, which is good. Um, Tell folks where they can find you and learn more about you.
Yes, I'm jenngray.com, and I'm Jenn Gray on all the platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the places. But yeah, I'd love for you to check out and connect so I can learn more about your story too.
We're going to include all of Jen's social media notes in the show notes afterwards. Um, I, Before I give you a chance to give words of encouragement, I want to thank you for saying yes to the interview. I want to say thank you for being vulnerable. I want to thank you for demonstrating your forgiving, empathetic heart. Um, and I know in 45, 50 minutes, whatever it ends up being, that we're only scratching the surface, but you've overcome a lot. I mean, just the stuff you've articulated here about your dad, your mentor, the divorce, the other relationship, the move, the back and forth, the technically the homelessness, um, the career shifts. And I don't even know if you know this, Jen. You said at one point that your story wasn't over yet. And that's actually on our banner in the You Are Worthy Network. Underneath it says your story's not over yet. And so your story is another great reminder to the viewers that their story's not over yet.
Right.
Yesterday's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow's not promised. There's some people that won't see tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But we have today. We can start fresh today, and God's not done with our stories yet. So I thank you so much for your story.
Thank you.
And I thank you what he's done. Praise God for what he's done with your story.
Mm-hmm.
If there's somebody watching right now that just needs a little shot of encouragement or hope, what would you say to them?
Absolutely. The biggest reminder to me is that we have the hope of change, that we all are born with a set of beliefs and we run into families, and so much of it is out of our control. And to know that you can rewire that. And if you've believed the lies that someone else has spoken over you, then my encouragement to you is that let's get rid of that. Like, let's go to the root of it and let's replace it with what's actually true. And what's actually true is that I believe if you are still here and there's breath in your lungs, it's because God's not done with you yet. And what does that look like? And what person needs who you were 5 years ago?
Mm,
Because so many times that we can forget, and we can get lost in our own story and be like, oh, if you only knew all of this, you would never trust me, you would never listen to me. And just get rid of that and think about 5 years ago and who you were and what you needed then and how you've overcome where you are, and know that that is the gift that you have for someone who's right where you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so just like you talked about, Steve, the fear of even getting on camera, the fear of stepping into the next version of yourself, that what I remind myself every time I get in front of a camera is there's one person that needs what I have to say today. And that person is worth me getting over my fear of getting on this camera. And for whatever it is for you, that one person who needs your story, who needs your hope, that may they be their focus, maybe they be your focus, instead of focusing on your own imperfections and your own insecurities, that imposter syndrome doesn't get that driver's seat, that they get the driver's seat, that you see the impact that you can make on that one person, and that's what fuels you to start something, to do something different, and to know that God created you on purpose and for a purpose, and nothing that you could do could disqualify you from that. And don't let any type of shame silence you, and instead don't live in that victim mentality. Live in the abundance that God has so much for you, and God can use you in spite of the decisions and in spite of chapters that you wish were gone from your story. And instead God used it to write some absolute redemption and some strength and courage in you that you otherwise would have never even known. So the power of the change mind, the power of you're still here and God's not done with you.
I actually had a secondary mic. I was trying to loosen it up for that purpose, but I couldn't get it undone.
Let's save the mic. The highlighter's perfect.
I got the highlighter.
Yeah. You're
That's
awesome.
awesome. That's awesome. Guys, you heard it from Jen. You hear it from me, but it's always good to hear it from somebody else. There's time for change.
For sure.
Your story can be rewritten. You can rethink how you've thought. You can reframe. Jen, this has been awesome. Thank you for being our special guest
Thank
today. It's been
you.
great.
So good. So great to connect with you.
Guys, I'm not going to add a lot more to that other than to end it the way I started. You're worthy. You're valued. You matter. You're amazing. And God has an amazing plan for you. Till next time, God bless. Take care.